Stream Deck, and also have running in it is oh, look at that, is H2R graphics. Morning,
Okay.
David. Afternoon, David. We don't hear any music, Dave.
It's because you were
This
talking.
meeting is-
I was
Oh,
listening to
wait,
you.
Play the darn music.
Play that funky music. Why? No music. We don't need music today. We're already.
All right, no stinking
We're just like
music.
no stinking. We're 30 seconds away. I have an analog clock. No, it's not analog. It's digital, but it's not like a smart clock.
What are you playing back? You're playing, David, you're playing two sounds. David, I now hear a playback.
Hold on.
No music. We don't need music.
That's not me. I don't
It's
hear
coming
anything.
from another source.
It's not me. Frank, do
Now
you
we're
hear it?
live on YouTube, guys.
Robert, do you hear it?
No, I
Oh, it
can't
must
hear
be
it.
that I'm. Oh,
Ray, that's you.
that is me. Stupid me. I'm blaming everybody else, and I don't usually have it on the same system. I apologize. I'm new at this, but I have the
New at
shirt, so give me a little slack. And Lois is joining us, so things are
And
going to be
Lois
just
is-
fine.
Hi, everyone. I'm fixing my clock. I'm complaining because I have a dumb clock that I have right in front of me, so I can always know what the time is without looking to the side. And it, like every day, it loses 30 seconds, and I constantly resetting it. It's so frustrating. If anyone has a recommendation for a really good like smart clock that I could just like tiny, I just want something tiny.
The one on your
I know,
wrist.
no,
Lot
The one on
lot
your
of
I
us
don't have
use
one on my
something
wrist.
called a phone.
Don't now
or a
wait. Don't get me
watch.
started, Robert. I have resisted an Apple Watch for so long. Resisted. I have absolutely no need for one.
Okay, you've
Your
convinced
phone has a
yourself.
clock on it.
Welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. We got Robert and Ray and Mike and Frank and Lois. Hi, everybody. I don't know. Do we need to like do the every week the formal kind of go around? I'm not sure we need to. But and look at this. Now I'm also like I'm too high. What is happening today?
It
too
depends
high.
on whether there's new people, and I know all six of you, but I don't know who's on the other part of this.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking live. I, of course, had the sound for it. I'm looking live, and we have 33 people watching live. No,
Oh dear Lord. All right, let's do the rounds. Let's do the rounds. I'm David.
Hi,
Ray,
David.
you're up.
Hi, Ray.
No, you're Ray.
Yeah.
You say I'm Ray.
Hi, guys. I'm here in sunny Central Florida, where it's we're about to get Florida weather. We've had New Jersey weather here for the last 2 weeks, so it's kind of nice. Glad to be here in the Friday Zoom Test Kitchen with all these friends of mine.
Absolutely. Mr. Lotta, how you doing?
Doing good, sir. And hopefully I'm a little less better. Is that better, Ray? Audio wise? Yes? No?
Still a little overdriving.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll fix that. But yeah,
Yeah.
all good. And a whopping 15 degrees Celsius. And you
Oh
guys
my
convert that.
Lord.
You guys convert that. And yes, we're worried about that.
Wow.
Where are you?
Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
You know what? It's your fault then. I mean, really, you chose to live in Canada, for goodness sakes. You don't get to complain about the weather.
Well,
was watching-
let's
ahead.
not talk about our boys and girls and all them wonderful people out in the East Coast that are,
That's true.
got snow that are, taller than most of the NBA basketball players.
That's true. I was watching Mac Break Weekly, the one they did. I don't know, was it last? I guess it was last week. And they were saying at the beginning of the show, they were talking about how in Canada the Vision Pro doesn't have access to any apps because the app store is restricted to just
Correct.
the US.
Yes,
Which
even though
just-
people that live about, like Frank and I, which we're about what, Frank, you're about a half hour from the US border. I know that I am about a half hour. So it doesn't take
Wow.
much for us to run across to Buffalo and grab one of those, but I did not. But yes,
You guys evidently haven't been listening to all the ads about these fabulous VPNs that allow you to virtually be in a different
Yeah.
place than you actually are and have access to everything that you should.
They actually suggested that someone suggested that to Alex. I think suggested that on the show. He said just use a VPN on your router. You're golden. Yeah, yeah. Ray. Oh, that was Robert. Hi, Robert.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good to see
Since
your
we're making the
smiling face,
rounds and
David.
talking weather, what is it? What is it in Poland?
Well, whether or not I like it, I am in Poland.
Cold, warm, hot?
It's -3 at the moment, degrees
For the
centigrade.
love of God, how do you all do it? I just don't understand.
No, but it's okay if there's snow. But when it's minus, when the temperature goes below 0 and there's no snow, it's like paying taxes without having any income.
David, these people don't know, most people don't know where you are, why you're so giddy about the weather.
Ray, 95% of the time, I have no idea where I am. So I don't know how I can explain. I'm in Florida. I'm in Miami, Florida right now. Frank is up north with Mike. How you doing, Frank?
I'm good, thanks.
Sorry, I caught you off guard.
I was trying to figure out 15 Celsius into Fahrenheit into freedom units, but that's t-shirt weather. That's golfing weather. Like for February in Canada, that's unbelievable. It's 8 degrees here, Celsius, which is unbelievable for February as well. We're gonna have lots of forest fires this summer.
Really? That is 46 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius.
Oh, I know lots of guys who would go golfing in that weather.
I would go golfing in that weather. I don't golf, but if I did, I would go golfing in that weather. Yeah.
officially, in the office, we've actually opened the windows.
There were lots of people walking around in t-shirts yesterday. To go back to the Apple Vision Pro for a second, Apple TV now has a VPN app you can buy for your Apple TV. So Apple knows all about VPNs.
Really? That's interesting. You buy it for your Apple TV as an app, and then
It's in the Apple TV App Store, so you can buy
watch
it.
TV from anywhere?
Yeah, I was watching a demo of someone watching Netflix and using the VPN to get, the shows from England or the shows from wherever. So, I mean, maybe Apple will approve a VPN in the, I'm not sure what the Apple Provision iOS store, whatever that is going to be.
That's fascinating. Oh, I'm going to have to go home and look at that. Beautiful. Lois, say hello.
Hello. Hi, this is Lois Richter from Davis, California, and we had a week of wet weather, and now I look out my window and it is sunny for the moment. Getting windy, but it's very nice.
And you're sitting inside. It's
Of
finally
course.
sunny, and you're sitting inside.
It's Zoom Test Kitchen. How could I not be here if I could be here? I'm still going to have to leave at 1:20 because I've still got that doctor's appointment, but I'll be here for a while.
We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here.
Good.
We're also glad
And
the
I have a
solution.
question.
All right, hold on a second. We got to make her finish
Okay.
our rounds.
Yeah.
Also glad the solution man is here. Hello, Gerald.
Hi there, and I'm not in my big comfy chair today since I had a Zoom meeting, so I'm at my Zoom studio right now, and
Oh,
so
we
I
love it.
my camera I've got a good camera.
And there's quite a bit of green going on there.
Yeah, it's actually a green wall. This is not a green screen, so this is a real giant light bulb. Light bulbs are my thing, so I got a small light bulb right here too, and
they-
a light bulb head.
Do they light up?
Actually, they do. They do. But they don't turn out too good on Zoom, is what I found when I light them up. They're a little bit too overpowering, but they're the full powerful ones. But
Do you key yourself out usually with the green behind you or no?
no, that's too advanced for me.
But
But
You muted. David, you muted.
oh,
yourself.
sorry. I said you're the solution man. It's not too advanced for you.
So do you just like the color? Like, why did you paint your walls chroma key green if you're not going to key yourself.
Well, I originally planned to key myself, but the quality of the keys has never been as good as I'd like it to be, and so forth. And I don't have any backgrounds, and I like having access to the real light bulb. So Robert has suggested I paint the background a different color, and this wall was actually physically painted green. And for those of you that know the John Deere tractor, it's the John Deere green. And so it'll probably end up being purple.
Well, you don't actually have to paint the wall. You make things called curtain rods, and you can run way up high and hang any piece of fabric in any color. In fact, you could have two and just scoot them whichever way you want to be that day.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I don't use my own suggestions.
All right, friends. So we're here in the kitchen.
What about Bobby? What happened to Bobby?
He is not there, so I wasn't going to
Came,
bother him
went?
yet.
Oh, right.
But
Okay.
when he comes, I will absolutely grab him. So
And if any of you out there who are watching this would like to participate in more than just watching it, hey, if it's live, come on down.
come on down. The water is fine.
Yeah.
The water is fine. And thank you, Hasmuk, for throwing the your what do you call those?
Meters. You muted yourself again.
No, I know, for throwing the meters in there. Appreciate that.
Hey, there's Bobby.
Bobby. It's like Norm when Norm walks into the bar.
It fits too because he's
Bobby's
coming
still
from New
searching
York.
for the mute button.
Come in, Bobby.
You're not speaking.
There he goes. No,
You're
we still
still not
can't hear you.
speaking to
You've
us.
got a soft mute on somewhere, I think. Or a plug, something unplugged, pluggy plug. I like Morn.
It's from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They've got a bar. Quark's got a bar, and there's this guy who always sits at the bar, but
that should be it, right? Hello,
Yeah, now I
hello.
can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
now
can.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, I've been away for a long time. I've been working a lot of events, so when I can get back, I do listen. So
Well, that's good. We're glad to have you here. Sorry,
Yeah,
we were
it's-
just going down to Deep Space Nine for a moment. What, Frank? What?
what episode? That was one of the best shows.
all right, rabbit hole time. There's a Star Trek spinoff called Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine has a bar run by a Ferengi named Quark, and he has a regular named Morn, who is definitely a representation or whatever. Salute to Norm from Cheers, I'm sure.
Correct. That is correct.
Never
That's they
even seen
reversed the letters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have encyclopedias galore for Star Trek. I'm big. I like DS9 a lot.
Awesome. Good to
Yeah.
have you here.
Thank you. Good to see everyone again.
So let's.
I
let's
might be
talk.
on the space camera because I am editing something, but I want to, I'll chime
Whatever
in.
you want to do, we're happy you're here.
Cool. I just didn't want to be rude if I turn,
Not at all. However you want to be here.
Cool
You're
beans.
always welcome. Always welcome. So, yeah, what's on our agenda? Lois, you said you had a question, something we could chew on maybe.
Oh, yeah. And you guys I know you're going to laugh at me. I just know it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I finally got those replacement hearing aids. So now hearing aids, I can hear stuff. Oh, I can hear stuff. I can hear things that I didn't know existed. I can hear the ice in the glass. I can hear the noise when you're touch your shirts or something, all this stuff. And a lot of it I couldn't hear because it's the high twittery stuff. So here's my question. I really preferred hearing myself without the hearing aids. The voice came through fine. Your voices came through. I really liked that. So when one uses a microphone, does the microphone pick up all the high things as well as the voice speaking things? Do different microphones cut some things off or others don't? is there a way to get rid of the high squeaky things with a normal microphone? All right, you're on.
Anyone an audio expert here?
Just going to say, Lois, you chose yourself a good microphone that has the full frequency band, and so what are you expecting?
I didn't know that it sounded that way until I got my hearing aids, and then I could listen to things going, oh, what's that? Oh, so my question is, how much of what I hear in the world is going to come through on the recording of my radio show?
Okay, the best thing to do is listen to the recording on YouTube after this show, and you'll hear yourself speak. Then you'll understand what's coming through, and you'll appreciate that none of us think that we speak the way we hear ourselves speak. But having said that, you sound good. Yeah? So from a sound point of view, I wouldn't complain about the quality of your sound. The fact that you hear yourself different is really your perception of what you sound like, and not how we perceive your voice. Nothing has changed for us since you changed your method of hearing.
There are ways, though, to I agree with Robert that you don't necessarily need to, because you're hearing it differently doesn't mean that other people are hearing it differently. Having said that, there are ways to play with your audio. There are software tools and hardware tools. So a hardware tool is if you were using a mixer or a Rodecaster Pro, stuff like that, you can use effects on there and you can tweak the treble and the bass. If you want to do something that's not, outboard gear, as it were, I've got Audio Hijack up here. And in Audio Hijack, the way Audio Hijack works is you've got your inputs right over here. So you could have your microphone, for example, would be an input, and then you could grab from over here, say a bass and treble, and kind of put that in between your input device and output device, and then you could either turn down the bass or turn up the treble or things like that. So there are different ways to do this if you wanted to relatively simply. I mean, this is drag and drop.
So when you're saying bass and treble, I'm assuming that let's just visually say these are the low tones and these are the high tones. If you say bass and treble, is it going to cut off part of the speaking range, or is it just going to cut off the things above the speaking range?
Okay, so let me start by saying I'm not an audio expert by any stretch of the imagination.
I should go to office hours and ask. Right?
Well, let's try this. I don't actually know that this will work, but let's give it a shot. So I'm going to grab a 10-band EQ and put it in between here. So now
you got two things, by the way.
I have two things.
You grabbed two things.
Yeah, it's all right. Okay. Let me. I'm going to do something simpler. Let's grab just the bass and treble. Put that in between. Okay. So now I've got bass and treble here, and I can now adjust. So if I turn, and again, I'm not sure if this is actually going to work, but I now turn my treble all the way up. I don't think you'll hear a difference necessarily, and I turn my bass all the way down. Did you guys hear a difference?
Nothing.
See, because I'm not running this into. I only use this for the meters up here, so that's why it's not working. But I mean, this is what you would do. You would essentially play with this until you got the sound right. Now, human voices generally, I believe, are in the mid to highs, mid to trebles. I believe. So you could choose. You'd have to go by ear. The caveat to all of this is, remember that your sound has not changed for us. It's only changed for you.
And that isn't my question. I know my sound has only changed for me, but my question is, since I was putting out all this stuff, including the high stuff I couldn't hear, was there a way to put out just this and not the high stuff? And I hear you saying treble and bass is not the way to go, but maybe there are other tools in there.
Yeah. For that, what you want to do is you want to look at an audio meter, and you want to see where the peaks are, right? So when you go like this, or when you clink the ice, you'll be able to see where what's the word I'm looking for, guys?
Level?
No.
Frequency?
You'll be able to see where on the meters what is the name for the
Frequency?
number? Frequency. Thank you. You'll be able to see what frequency those are at, and then and that's what the 10-band EQ is for, right? So if I let me bring back, delete this block, and I'll bring in a 10-band EQ. So if I open this up, so now what this does is this shows me all the frequencies. It's not going to let me, right? So 32.
If you have more than just two, you can do.
Right. And let's say if I'm making noise and it's really hitting in around the 2000s, then I could bring that down a little bit.
Okay.
There are also automated tools that could do this for you.
The question is, Lois,
that sounds like
I have an idea. Did you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I could share my screen. I could show you what I do.
Okay.
It's a cheap solution. Let's see. So desktop, right? Okay. So here we go. This is my sound desk right here. And I guess you could see the meters here. And this comes with sound desk. So you have a lot of room to play with, if that's at all helpful. And if you want, you could play some 80s metal too. So so I don't know. I mean, that was a good solution for me, and I think this is relatively inexpensive. And Can you
talk though about how how would you address an issue like you've got some noise up in the higher registers?
Well, do you see this? I have a graphic EQ. Do you see this one?
Yeah. You see
So
it.
I guess if you wanted to bring down your highs, you could bring down this stuff, and that's what's going out to you guys. I don't know if you hear a difference or anything like that, but this is something that you can get. I think it's included. You just drop it in here. It was part of Apple Graphic EQ, and it's just a plug-in that goes right into this sound desk here. Like the meter, or you can drop in your gain or different sort of EQs. So basically, this is my mic, and then this is what's going to you guys. That's what I had.
Does Zoom audio, does it do any of this kind of equalization stuff? Or does it just deal with volume?
No, it favors the human voice unless you use original sound or some of the other things.
Which I might be using original sound. Let's see.
So does that so that I know, but
no, I don't. I have Zoom optimized. I have it on automatic, which is probably bad.
Well, it's not bad.
No, I disagree. I always keep it on automatic unless
who's using Zoom. Probably the majority of customers have no concept of audio design, so it's good for most people. Now, if you have use cases that are different or more professional or more advanced, then you might want to take control of your audio. But I think what Zoom's done is made it for the majority of people by default. And then if you want to do something different, they give you options for that too.
And I do use Loopback, which is another inexpensive thing, which separates everything. And I can actually take like all my media players and put them into one channel. So then that's on 7 and 8 right here. So anything that comes from like Playback Pro or QuickTime or VLC, so I can very much separate them. So I thought that's might be a good suggestion for you.
I think this is a super complicated conversation that could last. Like, we could have audio test kitchen for months and months. People take years getting good at audio.
I'm not even an audio guy.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of factors, but you can have good audio without doing a lot of this stuff, but you have to think about it. Like, what's your environment? What's your microphone? Different microphones have different polar pickup patterns, so the microphone's changing the way you sound. How are you listening to your audio and auditioning it? So people pay a lot of money for reference speakers that are very flat and reproduce sound faithfully. You get some other kind of speakers that are heavy on bass or something, you're not getting a faithful representation of what you sound like. So your hearing aids can very much shape the way the sound sounds to you, which is not how I'm hearing it. And a lot of the new modern hearing aids have iPhone apps or other apps where you can go in and change the acoustic properties of the hearing aids. So you have to decide what you're trying to do. Like if it's a radio show, are you trying to make a faithful representation of your voice, first of all? And then secondly, are you trying to shape it in some way to give a psychological impact about your sound? Like do you want the proximity effect where your voice is very close to the microphone, so you're very much more enhanced the way you speak? Like all of that is sound design, not necessarily engineering itself, right? So there's a bunch of components here. Some of them are science, some of them are artistic, some of them are engineering, and you have to decide what is it that you're trying to accomplish before you can even have this conversation.
And also the one input that I can give on that when it comes to the microphones is that it definitely depends on the brand of microphone. As Frank was saying too, it definitely depends on the polar pattern, and it depends on what you want your sound to be
Right.
of your voice, right? Because everybody's voice is totally different. So if I give you my settings for this mic compared to the settings, it would not sound, unless you had this mic, would you be even in the ballpark
Mhm.
to be close to having, the proper compression, the proper low cut filter, the proper high cut filter? Those would be your basic three things to actually look at when it comes to audio in the beginning, without necessarily tampering too much with the EQ. Because again, once you start getting into the EQ, you're EQing, depending on your setup, you could be EQing also the audio you're hearing back, as well as affecting your mic.
Yeah.
So be very careful with that too. So it really depends on, does your mic come with software? Yes or no? So in this case, if you're using USB software versus what I'm using here is an XLR. So I'm going into my audio mixer, then my audio mixer is going into the ATEM. But I actually have the audio mixer doing a portion of my audio cleaning, which is EQ. But again, the ATEM is actually taking out even more and also adding compression. That's why I'm able to be as loud as I am, but I'm compressing the outer and inner. But as Frank said, yes, this could be its own audio test kitchen very, very quickly.
So I think we're about done with the topic, but I just want to be clear to you all what I was trying to do. I was trying to make the sound coming out of the radio to you sound like what I used to hear without my hearing aids. So I want to dumb it down so that you can hear what a person with that kind of hearing loss is hearing. Did that make
You can't
sense?
control that.
Yes, I can.
Lois, with all due respect, no, you can't control what we hear.
Yes, I
Because
can.
even after you say it you can't. On the radio, there's 10 different things between you and us, and they're different for everybody wherever we're listening.
Oh.
So
In
you
that
don't
sense,
have that,
yes.
that control.
But I do have the
It's-
control of what I put out.
And but
that's
you
what I'm-
always want to put, right, but you always want to put, I think you've heard, you always want to put out the best you can, because we would like to hear the best we can.
Yes, and I'm looking at a specific instance where I want people to hear the difference between what they're hearing normally and what a person with hearing loss is hearing. So it's not like this is going to be my forever thing. This is a situation where I'm trying to do a show about the differences in hearing.
So that's a lot different than what I understood, but
Yeah.
I think what you would do is record your audio properly and then do or pre-record some samples. There's different kinds of hearing loss. I'm not an audiologist, so I don't know all the different kinds, but then I would try and make the audio representative of the different kinds of hearing loss. So I might pre-record and use like EQing or special effects or something to make 5 or 6 examples and play those back as examples of different kinds of hearing loss. And then I would go back to my, my normal audio chain and give them the normal audio they're expecting.
Right, exactly.
Thank
you all.
I had the honor to record a bunch of albums of my music in studios, and one of the things that I learned there, because I'm not good with audio at all, like I can't, my hearing is fine, but I'm just, it's just not a skill of mine to really be able to listen, is they would give me the masters and they would say, listen to it in your car, listen to it on your iPod, listen to it on a CD, listen to it on speakers. I think as Ray was saying, there are so many different pieces before, but what you're talking about is fascinating, and I've seen people do it, right, to model for others what it might sound like, how it might sound differently. And of course, you can't get it 100% accurate because you can't control everything. But I think I agree with Frank. I think you could. Let me offer one other option. Sorry, is that there are ways that you can. So, for example, let's see. So I probably sound a little different to you right now, and that's because I'm running my voice through a voice effect. I can, let's see what else.
So this is now, yeah, so it changed.
So you could use something like that. Also, you could actually create your own, and there are lots of free tools, I'm sure, to do this. Create your own and then run your mic through that so that people could, if you wanted to do it live as opposed to pre-recorded, so that people could get a sense of it.
There's probably lots of them on the internet as samples that you can download and you'd have to check the copyright if you have to give attribution, but you may not even have to do it yourself. There may be plenty of places where you can get those kind of examples.
Lois, I have hearing aids, and in order to get them tuned, the audiologist puts you in an anechoic chamber and they measure everything. So it's almost impossible for you to be able to duplicate this without that chart. And then I would ask a third party to mix it for you, because you're not going to be able to hear it without the tools to be able to see if you're really getting what you're hoping to do. So it can be measured, but it can only be measured with the proper tools. And I don't think that's going to be in your control. But if you turned it over in a program you did on your radio, if you turned it over to somebody that had the tools, they could punch it in and make it exactly, at least the recording, exactly as you have tested by the audiologist. But from that point, you really can't control what we hear ultimately, because there's a lot of automatic things that happen also by the time it gets to us.
So what I'm thinking that I will do is I will record myself speaking normally, and then I will listen to it without my hearing aids, hear what it sounds like. Then I'll put in my hearing aids and take a copy of that and try to adjust it so that with my hearing aids, I'm hearing it sounding the same as it was the other way. And that way, I'll be trying to represent to people what I'm hearing. I understand there are thousands of different ways of, everybody's got a different way of hearing. I get that. But what I'm trying to show them is what it sounds like to me. So anyway, that's my plan. And I think Robert has something, but I think then we're probably done.
Okay, there's another way of looking at this, and all of our voices change in time. And there is a website, an app at 11labs.io where you can record your voice. It'll take the characteristics of your voice, and then you can use that characteristic when in 50 years' time, Lois, and you will have exactly the same voice that you have now. Your voice won't change because it's recorded it now. And in the same way, I could put my voice on there and I could ask it to play back with a famous actor's voice, for example, with your voice. And I would speak and it would speak with your voice. And so 11labs.io, highly recommend. It's worth spending a little bit of time playing with it because it opens up the mind a lot. And to make it even more creepy, if I can use that word, you can get this voice lip synced. So it changes your video and lip syncs it with the voice that's coming out. And that becomes very, very weird.
I'm pulling it up. Generative voice AI, yeah. There it is.
I think it all depends on context, Robert. Like Stephen Hawking's, when they created his artificial voice for him, later on they said, we can make your voice sound more natural. And he said, no, that's my personality now. I don't want to change it. But there's a lot of people who may suffer health, like stroke or something, and they'll want their voice reconstructed so that they can speak the way they used to speak. So, this could be used for good or it could be used for bad or creatively. Like, it's what you do with it, I think, that makes it creepy or not creepy.
Just like with all of AI stuff. But we just had this conversation recently. There's a person who is used to work with radio and has a radio voice. And he'd like that. There's less and less people with the radio voice these days. And he wants to use that as a selling point of his voice. So he's recording his voice on 11labs.io, and you can go there and buy his voice for whatever you're doing.
This is an amazing site. Wow.
So let's focus on Zoom, since we're in a Zoom test kitchen. And with the audio controls on Zoom, what kind of control do you have, Frank? I'm talking about just in a meeting, you open the audio controls, you can change your volume up and down, and that's it, isn't it?
Not exactly, because I think, like Ray was saying earlier, first it's going through a USB, or possibly not USB, but it could be analog. But at some point, it's going from analog to digital, and that's called a DAC, a digital analog converter. And there's different DACs of different qualities, and they do different things, so that's influencing the voice. Then it gets into your operating system. Your operating system has a sound card and drivers. That changes the quality of the audio. You may have other software in there. That's before it even gets to Zoom. Then it's going over the internet. You may have packet loss or other things that impact it. Then Zoom's going to process it. Then it's going to get sent. My computer's going to process it. My DAC is going to process it. My thing that plays the sound is going to process it. So it's all a representation. It's very subjective. That's why music studios have reference studios, and they use meters, and they do very formal engineering type things to make things be as true as possible. But in real life, it's hard to create that accuracy that's identical from when it left your mouth until the person gets it on their ears, especially over the internet. So, you want good results. You want to use good processes, good equipment, good bandwidth, but some of it's out of your control unless you're a professional.
And my question is, what in Zoom do you get to change? This volume?
So if you use vanilla Zoom and you don't change anything, the engineers at Zoom have decided what's best for voice. It's proprietary information. They're not going to tell us exactly what they're doing, but they favor human voice, sort of like in the telephone range, probably a little more generous than telephone range. The area that the human voice mostly is involved in, the frequencies that. Then if you want to go outside of that, there's options in Zoom to have original audio, which basically is unfiltered audio that has no frequency changes or let's say gain changes. So they give you that. They also let you change the noise cancellation or echo cancellation. You can use low, medium, and high if you're in a noisy environment. But when you change those things, you may be impacting how much of your true voice is getting through, because with noise suppression comes frequency loss, which means you're probably constraining the trueness or the original sound of your voice is probably being impacted. So every time you change a setting in the Zoom control panel, you're varying the results. And I'll leave it there, because other than that, it's a pretty deep subject.
So let's just take a look at what Frank was just talking about. So here are the audio settings, and this has changed quite a bit over the past 2 or 3 years. So Zoom background noise removal, that's recommended for most users. By default, it's set on auto. I always change it to low, and my experience is that when it's set to low, if I play music, it's it's heard clearly and easily. I mean, this is just, so I'll just play the Mission Impossible thing, and I'm pretty sure you all can hear that comfortably, even though I'm not using original audio. Then there's personalized audio isolation, which I've never played with, but does this? Yeah. So this means that it's going to listen to your voice, and then it's going to do the same work that Zoom background noise removal does, but it's going to be personalized to your voice. And then there's original sound for musicians. And under here, you've got these three options: high fidelity music mode, echo cancellation, and stereo audio. I generally keep stereo audio off because my assumption is that no one is listening to me on stereo speakers. And then the last one is the live performance audio. This is the newest one. And this is the one where you can sing almost in sync with one another. So those are the four options, excuse me, that we have there. And then as far as, there's automatically adjust microphone volume, which again, if you're just plain Jane, you probably do want to keep, I would keep all of this on, right? I would leave it on, let Zoom do the work. Unless you have your own outboard gear, let Zoom do the work.
And the only thing that I would say is the automatic adjusting. Since I do a radio show where my partner and I are in different places and record it through a Zoom meeting, we want to set our microphones without having Zoom adjust anything, so that we know exactly where we're setting them, and we get it so that we don't have meters, but we get it so that it sounds good. And that way it doesn't weird out in the middle of a recording.
Absolutely.
You do that with a tone? Do you both play the same tone to get that level? How do you determine that, or just hearing each other's voice?
We talk to each other while we're recording a bit, and then we both go away and we listen to it and see if we sound okay. And if one is high or low, we adjust it. Then once we know where that is, if we don't change our setups from week to week, well, we're pretty sure that's going to be the right spot.
So Zoom, I think, announced at Zoomtopia or somewhere in between that for people who do podcasting and other kinds of things using Zoom, they were going to allow double enders. And I've been waiting for that, and it hasn't come out yet, but I think it's going to be really useful when they add that feature to Zoom for people who use Zoom for things like making recordings to
like
disseminate.
Riverside FM does?
What's a double ender?
Yeah.
Double ender is an old broadcasting, radio, and television term. Basically, we can have a live interview, but or we can fake it, and we're recording locally. So you record on your side, I record on my side. Back in the day, I would send you a cassette or a reel, or nowadays I'll send you a digital file, and one of us is going to edit. The highest quality is going to be the stuff that's recorded locally, because it's not getting compressed by the internet. Then you go into your favorite audio editing software, and you take both sides that were recorded at source, and you make them into one show or one program. That's a double ender. Ray probably knows more about it than I do because he's been in the industry longer than I have. But
so if when we do this, there's just the two of us, we're on a Zoom meeting, and we are both recording. Each of us is recording on our own computer. Now, is that the equivalent of what you're talking about, where I could take the one for me and he could take the one for him and they would be local? Is that what
Zoom kind of has it right now. So if you record to the cloud in Zoom, there's a set. First of all, you have to have a paid account, and then you have to cloud record. You can record a separate audio track for each person, I think up to 50 or 100 different people.
And
you can download those.
And you can do that on your computer. I record to my computer, and I always
Sure. But what Zoom does is if you're having a meeting and you set the meeting up to have a cloud recording and you turn on this option, Zoom will record a separate audio track. So if there's 6 people in the meeting, Zoom's going to record 6 audio tracks, and then when the server stops processing it and tells you it's ready, or you go look for it, you can download those 6 separate audio tracks. So you'll have a track for each single person. So it's almost like having a double ender. But I think the difference is Zoom has to compress the audio to some extent, whereas on your local computer, depending what software you're using to record, you might be able to get a very, very high quality recording, maybe 32-bit or 24-bit, with no compression, or maybe, it depends on the software you're using and your skills and abilities, but you could get a pristine recording, as good as your equipment will allow. And then you can share the file with the person who's going to do the editing. That's a double ender. We used to actually put a tape in the mail and FedEx it to the editor, wherever that TV station was, or broadcast house or whatever. But now you can do it all digitally.
So this is.
But if you do it, Lois, if you do it on your computer, you're going to have one quality, and your partner that's coming into your computer via Zoom is going to have a different quality. So the point is that you each record on your own computer.
And
Okay. So just to be clear, I'm recording locally, he's recording locally. So my track on my computer is going to be better than listening to him on my computer, and the reverse for him. His track's going to be better than this. So then if we took the two good tracks, we could then put them
Right,
together.
but remember, we're talking about recording not through Zoom. We're talking about having an audio recording only. In other words, there's going to be an audio recording on your computer that your mic's going to go directly to your computer, and then you're going to have the Zoom. You don't care about that. You
But
only
Ray,
care about what's down here.
But Ray, if you
local.
record locally through Zoom, it's not compressing at all, is it? It's just recording it.
Oh, sure it is, because it's still going through Zoom.
It is?
Why isn't it going directly in Zoom? Loading it to my computer.
Wouldn't the audio that isn't it grabbing the audio almost before it even gets into Zoom? I guess it's not,
because you're using the client to record, so the client is grabbing hold of the audio stream from the microphone.
Right. So you want Audacity, for example, which is a simple free app to record your audio. You've probably done audio recordings on your computer anyway, but Audacity, if you both are recording on Audacity at what you think is the right level, then it doesn't matter what the interaction is as you talk to each other on Zoom. You each have an original recording of just your voice from your mic to your computer, nothing in the middle. Those are the two things you want to put together for what you're releasing if you're looking for this level. And I don't think it's worth the effort, frankly.
If I could so I think it's important to remember why Zoom is here. And all of us, and not just us, but everyone, I think, is pushing Zoom and expecting Zoom to do lots of things that it perhaps are not part of its core function, right? The core function of helping people connect. So high quality audio recordings on local audio recordings is not, it may do it, but that's not what it's all about. And so I think that Ray is right that if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you're going for, I would still use Zoom, perhaps for the conversation, but I would, again, just record locally. And all you need to do is make sure those are time-stamped, or just do a clap at the beginning so that you can line them up easily, and then it's easy peasy to use.
Last question. If I have this microphone, I'm on Zoom, and I have this microphone, I'm recording locally, I use Amadeus. Is the sound from the microphone going automatically to both of them, or do I have to have something in between? Or it goes, Ray is nodding his head. It goes to both of them.
My official answer would be depending on the computer you're using, which obviously, Lois, you're using a Mac, you would have to make sure that you don't have any driver issues if it's a USB mic. Again, in the Windows world, there would be a bit of an issue because two different software will be fighting for it. And that driver has to be smart enough to go, I can send to both at the same time, or you need another piece of software in the middle that will actually grab on to your audio first and then split it out, which is similar to what David, I think, was showing with the way of doing the flow chart that you had at Mac there.
The other thing, and this is just basic, is you have to make sure that whatever apps you're using, that you select the correct microphone. So for example, I was consulting with someone today, and people couldn't hear something. It's because he had not selected the correct microphone. So if you don't have any issues that Mike just mentioned, you should have, there's no reason why you can't choose the same microphone in Zoom as you can in, did you say Audacity?
Amadeus.
Amadeus, I'm sorry. And yes, you should be able to use it in both.
Okay.
And
Thank
then
you.
it will only grab your audio, not your guest audio. Right. Absolutely. These are good questions. Audio it's just one of the most difficult pieces of this puzzle, I think.
Audio is the most important technical part of a Zoom conversation. Obviously, the content is the most important thing, but if your content's important, you want people to be able to hear it. So if you had to choose in a horrible binary choice, good audio or good video, your audio is far more important. If people can't understand what you're saying, it doesn't matter how nice you look. They're gonna leave the meeting because they can't understand the value of what you're saying.
Absolutely. And Ray, I think earlier, you said you were talking, or someone was mentioning room treatment. We have a large sanctuary here, and they spent, when COVID hit, they spent about, I don't know, $20,000-$30,000 on upgrading the sound system and putting cameras and all that other stuff. They have a nice Behringer X32, and okay, but a couple months ago, there was an older gentleman in the sanctuary who was complaining that it was really difficult to hear. So we brought our audio guys back, and we just put another, however many $1,000 into the sound system, which will absolutely make it better. We replaced a couple of the tweeters, and we did this and that and the other thing. But fundamentally, the problem is that it's a sanctuary, and it's full of glass and wood, and with really high ceilings, and it's just a big empty space. And so there's not much you can do about that. It's
well, there is, but it costs money, right? So what we do in big institutions,
and it changes the whole aesthetic.
Sure, what we do in big institutions, though, is we have assistive listening devices. So, basically, you're wearing a microphone, or the sound's coming out of the soundboard. It's getting sent wirelessly to a receiver that particular person wears. So it's kind of like a private set of hearing aids for that one person in the room, but they get it through the soundboard, so they're not listening necessarily to the speakers. But it's expensive and complicated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. We've thought about that. I was thinking more about just it's because it's not just for those who are hard of hearing. It's the sound is not as good as it could be because of the aesthetics of the room.
I missed what you meant.
No. Yeah. It's both, I think. Yeah. Sorry, Mike.
We did an event in the Egyptian section of the Natural History Museum, which is just an echo chamber, and you broadcast it over a small FM channel. Museums have been doing this for years, and they get good quality audio. There's no reason why that person in that seat has to depend on sound coming from speakers to
right. But again, it's not that person in that seat. It's just, I was just commenting on the importance of room. That's all I was saying, is that room has so much to do with the way things sound. Hasmukh, sorry, you have your hand up.
Yeah, before I say anything, I just want to remind Ray that there's a reason why the meters are in here. So you're pretty low, if I may say so. Couldn't miss that one. I had a meeting with a big corporate this week on looking good and sounding good. And it was a CEO, CFO, and the top executives. But they use Teams. So I felt a little disadvantaged because my entire workflow is Zoom-based with the Stream Deck, and I use H2R graphics to bring my lower thirds in and all sorts of things. So my question was, how do you bring your whole Zoom setup into a Teams meeting so that you program out what you're seeing in Zoom into the Teams meeting?
Yeah, I can help you with this one because this
That
is
is
something.
such a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kudos.
No, I can help you with this one. We do this quite a lot, actually. The big thing is if you have a corporation that is on Teams, it's easy for them to invite all of the in-house people to attend the meeting. So the two ways we do it. If we're on site, that's one way. And the second way is if the speakers are off-site, in other words, online. Okay. If the speakers are online, we'll put them onto a Zoom meeting and we'll go through our workflow. And then I'll get ZoomISO and I'll pick up the people that I want to go into Teams, put into NDI, and Microsoft Teams supports NDI. So you've got the sound and you've got the video. If on the other hand, the people are on site, we usually stick an ATEM mini there between our whole workflow environment and the MS Teams machine, and we go straight into there because you can go in there as a camera and a sound source.
So can I ask a clarifying question, Hasmukh? Is that what you're? Because I think I was thinking of something different.
I was also asking a different question.
Because so let me see if I get the question right. Earlier this week, I had a meeting in Teams, and my mute button in my Stream Deck didn't work, and my camera button didn't work, and like none of the things that I've set up for Zoom worked. Is that where you were going?
Well, to respond to Robert, I was an invited guest to a corporate meeting. So they set up the meeting and they sent the invitation to me. So I had no control. And the only control was my video and my audio. So instead of my camera and my audio all being pumped into the Teams meeting, I couldn't manage my workflow like I do normally with a Zoom meeting. So is there a way to push your program as a camera into the meeting and have all the options you have in your normal Zoom setup and Zoom workflow? I don't know if I'm asking the question correctly or clearly.
You would need to you would need to grab the out of Zoom. I mean, I guess what you could do is you could capture. Yes, if it's just you, you could actually use ISO. Ironically, you could use ZoomISO and then send the NDI and then just NDI into Teams, as Robert was saying, and then any changes that you make in your Zoom universe will be reflected via NDI in Teams. I think.
So I think the simplest way I can put it is my presence in that Teams meeting. They're seeing me and hearing me through my Zoom workflow rather than the Teams app. That's what I was getting at.
Right. So you do your workflow, you join a Zoom meeting by yourself, and then you just you pin yourself or whatever, and then you just either NDI or hardwire that out into the Teams meeting. I think. Robert, does that?
Yeah, let me take a stab at this because I'm curious, Hasmukh. Is it what of Zoom are you dependent on that your audio and video source can't go directly into Teams?
Everything. So I use H2R graphics as a workflow in my Zoom meeting. So I bring in lower thirds.
Right.
My Stream Decks control most of the production normally, and I can also switch from one input to another input with multiple computers or multiple cameras. I could do it in Teams because I use my ATEM as the camera
Okay. Right.
into the meeting.
Because,
And I
right.
was switching my ATEM for multiple video sources.
Right.
That I managed to do. But since I am since in the Stream Deck and the HDR graphics with Companion, all of those are Zoom compliant, not Teams supported.
Well, I would beg to differ because H2R graphics is
Uh-huh.
going through your ATEM, correct? Because it should not be going into Zoom.
No. So
Because
HDR graphics, HDR graphics is part of my Companion setup. So in the Companion, I
Right.
have a HTTP setting that sends out the graphics.
Right. But again, that is a video input into the ATEM though, correct? The H2R graphics?
Correct.
Right. So again, the common denominator here is the ATEM. So officially the
Yes,
companion is controlling the ATEM.
Right.
The video and audio is going into the ATEM. And the ATEM is then going into a PC, correct?
Got you.
Or Mac.
Or a Mac.
Right?
Yes.
Right. And then at that particular point, you can use whatever software you want. It could be Teams, Zoom, insert here. So as long as you keep it at the hardware end, then you just have to fire up Teams. And then as Robert was doing locally in his local setup is
join
the Teams call using with the ATEM as being the audio and video inputs. And then your companion is still doing everything. Now, if you are bringing additional people in through your feed into Teams, this is where it gets a little more complicated. And that's what Robert was talking about, where you could actually use Zoom, then Zoom into, you could do it like old school that Robert has done on multiple occasions too, having your bit of a, Zoom scraping, or even a little different where you actually have everybody as an individual input into your ATEM, where again, then Teams doesn't care because as far as it's concerned, it's an ATEM, right? It thinks it's a webcam, right? So that's where you have to get as simple in the Teams world, you have to get it as simple as saying, okay, so my common denominator is the ATEM. Whatever I'm bringing into the ATEM, Teams will see, because whatever I'm bringing into the ATEM, Zoom will also see. It just depends on what software I'm firing up at that point.
So I think my head got spun around because there's one element of my workflow that failed miserably, and I tested again. I use Michael Forrest's video pencil, and my iPad failed miserably during the Teams session. I don't know if there was any other issue, but I was doing a sounding good, looking good session with these corporates. And when I show the incorrect framing, it's quite dramatic when I use a telestrator. Then I draw lines with upper thirds, lower thirds, and where you should be. And normally, since most of them use laptops, I show them how their lid is going up, and you get a nice view of the nostrils, all that kind of stuff. And I draw arrows. So the telestrator was a very important part of my exhibition as a guest. And that kind of just failed completely. And then my head just spun around. But after the meeting, I fired up Zoom, and Video Pencil just worked consistently every time.
So let me ask you a question, Hasmak.
Yeah.
Are you using Video Pencil as your camera into Zoom?
Yeah.
And did you choose the Video Pencil?
No, not into Zoom. Remember, I've got nothing to do Zoom in that meet at that time. I used Video Pencil as the camera, my Blackmagic as the camera.
Right, but in order for Video Pencil to work, so your iPad communicates with Video Pencil camera on your computer.
Correct.
And then that creates a virtual camera that you can send into Zoom.
Or Teams.
Normally, but I was in Teams. So what
No,
I
that
found
I
is-
understand. My question was, did you use that virtual camera in Teams?
Yes. So what happened is when I launched the app, I see whatever I see on camera in my program on my iPad,
Right.
and it lasts a couple of seconds and it just freezes. And so I tested it after the meeting with a video pencil with Zoom and video pencil with a Teams session. And it behaved like that every time. Then I thought to myself, you know what? I'm comfortable with the Zoom setup, and I just need to feed what's going out of the ATEM straight into the Teams meeting. Then I have the confidence of it working each and every time.
Is there?
So that's hence my question.
Yeah.
That's-
Is
has
there
not-
is there a way to grab? Can you, Robert, grab Zoom's feed over NDI, or is ZoomISO the only way to really do that, or screen scrape?
Screen scrape or ZoomISO? I don't know
Yeah.
of any other method.
I think Zoom rooms support NDI.
Yes, sorry, you're right. Frank.
Ah,
But Hasmuk, there's one other thing that I would try at your end. There's a big difference between the behavior of a Microsoft Teams meeting in a browser and a Microsoft Teams meeting in the app. Yeah,
Agree.
go for the app whenever you can.
Oh yeah. This was the app. I used the app. I didn't use the browser. So I use Teams New, as they call it, new. So I use Teams New, the app, and that's how I joined the meeting. So my only sort of thinking is, if my entire workflow is set up on with Zoom, and I can take that program out and feed it into my Teams meeting, that gives me a great deal of comfort and assurance. So the question was, how would you screen scrape that program out?
so what I would do is so just
Without using NDI, I mean, that's
Yeah.
another learning curve for me.
right.
Yeah.
So I think that I would have Zoom full screen. I would probably use the dual monitor mode so
Yeah,
that
got you.
so I don't have all of the stuff at the
Okay.
bottom, right? And then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would just have that full screen on a screen, and then use another tool. For me, it would be Ecamm to just grab that screen and make that my input into. Right. So for example, so that's essentially what I do here. So this is right. I've got another screen. This happens to be another computer, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm essentially kind of screen scraping this, and then I make it just my camera in here, and then I can send it into wherever I want.
Okay.
Are you an Ecamm user, Hasmuk?
No, I'm a Mimo Live user. I suppose you could have the same
Oh,
impact.
the same exact thing in Mimo Live. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't
And
use
again,
either of them,
Hasmuk,
and I stick to OBS to do that.
Yeah, and Hasmuk, what you could also do too is if you do have an empty port on your ATEM, depending on how your workflow works, you can
Yeah,
always have
yeah.
another laptop logged into Zoom, and then just take the HDMI out and go into the ATEM.
Ah, got you. There
That's
we go.
totally
Then-
old school.
The
Got
only
you.
thing is we have now turned a simple Teams meeting into a tremendously convoluted, multi-compute. I mean, there are just so many points of
Look who's
possible
talking.
failure
What have
along
you
the
done
way.
to a Zoom meeting? It's
No,
the
I'm
same
just-
thing. It's the exact same
You've
thing,
been
just
doing
in
it.
Teams.
No,
That's
but
funny.
but my point is, you can do doing all of that just in Zoom. Okay, that's crazy. Doing all of that in Zoom and then trying to port it all over to another platform, it just magnifies the
Just like
possible points of
Ecamm.
failure.
But
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no,
yeah.
it absolutely. Yes.
it means that he's the presenter He's not just somebody who's in a meeting. I mean, if we're just in a Zoom meeting and we're all doing gallery, so what? But he's a presenter.
You know what though,
Hasmukh, and if you need someone to test it with, if you need to have a Zoom meeting and a Teams meeting and all this stuff, give me a call and I'll be one of your testies.
Yeah, yeah. I have a lot of fun doing this thing because when it comes to framing and other things, I've taken hundreds of pictures of our television. So I have examples of bad framing and good framing. But the fun part is virtual backgrounds. So I have a guy that is bald as me, and he's got little longer hair. And as he's speaking, the hair goes up and down, up and down. And I think the CEO at this company almost fell off his chair because he was killing himself. But hey, that's an impact, and so people remember my presentation with that kind of inserts. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I stayed awake just to ask this question because it's way past my bedtime.
Can I throw one more possibility in for you guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
If the facility knows about it and supports it, there are add-ons to Microsoft Teams and there are add-ons to Zoom that allow Teams meeting users to dial into Zoom meetings and vice versa. But it means the admin of Teams at that organization has to have the right licenses and has to set it up correctly, and vice versa for Zoom. There's marketplace applications that allow Teams calls to natively call into Zoom meetings.
I think there lies the rub, the cooperation.
But do they actually get to call? Can you actually call in though? I was actually just looking that up, and I know you can schedule and So from Zoom, you can call into a Teams meeting.
Back in the old days, we used to, for video conferencing, there used to be a standard called SIP, and different platforms could call in, and the engineers at both companies realized that there's still a lot of places that want that, but it's usually professional enterprise level accounts and people who have the knowledge to make that happen. But yeah, you can, if both places support it, you can call into a Teams meeting from Zoom, or you can call into a Zoom meeting from Teams, but all the building blocks have to be put in place by the professionals first.
Wow.
One other option, Hasmukh, if you're really going to do a lot of this Zoom Teams integration type work or cross-platform work, that's Epiphan, which is a cloud app which you log into in Teams and you log into in Zoom, and it'll actually connect those two meetings in a specific way. So I've tried it out. I found it cumbersome, maybe because I just do it the way I'm used to do it. And just on your point, David, we're talking about Hasmukh getting into the Teams meeting. When we do a lot of interpretation work on Teams, we actually take the Teams meeting out, put it into Zoom, get the interpreters on Zoom, and then take the interpretation out from Zoom with the video and send it to a completely different Teams meeting where all of the attendees are. And that's where you really get like this stack of Mac Minis 12 feet high.
Robert, could you put the name of that thing in the chat so we could understand what it is?
Sure, certainly.
Thank you.
Oh, Epiphan? I could talk to you guys a little bit about it while Robert's doing that. Is that what you're asking, Lois?
I wanted to know what the name is, and so it's easier to have him put it in the chat than it is to try and have you spell
like
it.
an Epiphan Perl, for example.
Yeah,
Andy did quite a good demo with that.
Yeah, so while Robert's doing that, I'll talk about it. So Epiphan it's actually a Canadian company.
Sorry, Mike, I'm trying to figure out how to spell it.
For every go ahead, Rob. Go ahead, Frank.
Epiphan, E-P-I.
Yeah,
F-A-N?
E-P-I-P-H-A-N.
P-H-A-N, yeah.
Video.
It's like a game show.
Game show, yeah. Gong show officially.
Oh, by a vowel.
Just speak it out loud to the G. Say, hey G, how do
Yeah,
you spell Epiphan? And there it'll show
Yeah.
up.
yeah. There you go. So
And there's
it's
some
a-
videos on it that, and I think Andy did a pretty good one from one of the conventions.
yeah, there's actually a new model of FFN that actually came out within the last week or two that actually is a rack mountable model. They basically taken the FFN Pearl and now converted it into a rack mount 1U for all those people that are interested.
Well, Hasmuth, hopefully you'll invite me to your next meeting because my level is getting better and you won't be embarrassed. So thank you for bringing that up. And fortunately, we have a relationship good enough that you can do that anytime necessary, and I appreciate it. It's nice to have friends in this high places.
Actually, I haven't even looked at his meters to see how I'm doing. Yeah, I'm okay.
24 on the dot. You hit it. There you go. Hey, Hasbrook, can I ask you a question actually? So,
Yeah, go ahead.
so I've noticed, and the same thing is true for me, and I'm not sure how you've routed yours, but if, let me just open mine up real quick so you can see. When I open up my meters, if someone else speaks, it'll register. But when I speak, it doesn't register. And the same thing is true for you. Why is that? Do you know?
Correct. It's it depends on Mickey did change it for me on my mix pre. So there is a routing. I can send you. I'm not sure what you're using as your mixer. Is that a mix pre?
No,
Or
I'm just routing it. I'm just routing it through what do you call it?
Yeah.
Through
Because
audio
it's all,
hijack.
yeah. So if you're using stereo out, then you only hear the other participants in the meeting, and therefore your when you speak, it doesn't go through the meters. So in the early days, I used to connect from another computer to test my audio in the meters.
Right.
And then eventually Mickey did the routing on mix pre so that when the talent speaks, I can adjust their levels because the meters measures them as well. So it's a routing issue from an audio chain point of view.
Yeah. Interesting. In any case.
I think, David, it's also related to, if I'm not mistaken, are you listening when you've set it up right now? You're listening to the audio coming back, correct? In your chain?
I can
Into
actually
the
hear all.
meters?
I have myself in my ear also.
But is that both of them being routed into those meters? Or are you just listening to the Zoom audio coming back? Because the Zoom audio coming back will not have you in it.
No, I'm listening to no, correct. That I know. So no,
Okay.
I am routing both into the meters, but again, I don't get the whole audio thing. I just
That would be my only thought, that's what's happening, is that you're listening to the Zoom audio, which of course you'll know Zoom is
Right.
only sending out us,
Right.
not, it'll never, unless
I'm
you
one
have
of-
it in the
I'm-
middle.
I'm one of those people that it's working now, and I'm not going to touch anything. Like because I'm terrified if it stops working, I will never get it to work again. So, hi Lois.
Mike, I have a question on what you just said. I heard you say
Yes.
Zoom will only send me everybody else, but not my own.
Mhm.
If that's true, then how am I recording the Zoom meeting and I'm getting everybody's audio?
Good luck with explaining mix minus, Mike.
Oh, goodness. You want me to go down that road? All right. So
Hey, mix
yes.
minus and stop. That's it. That's okay.
Yes, that is the official answer. It's mix minus, which is not, mix minus is done on the client. not in the cloud.
Thank
How's
you.
that for quick? Then that's the official right answer.
But just to play devil's advocate for Lois here, yes, it's done in the cloud, but it's also done in the client because local recordings also record your voice.
Mhm.
It's more
It's
complicated.
input versus output, right?
Input versus output.
So the client's taking your input, your microphone,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
it's recording it, but what it's outputting and what you're hearing is the minus, the mix minus. You're not hearing yourself. It subtracts you from what it sends back to you.
Which means it knows whose voice is whose.
It has to. Sure, it has to.
No. It doesn't know that your voice is Lois. It knows where your voice is coming from.
That's what, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
it knows that this microphone, the voice into this microphone is to be treated separately than the voice is coming over the internet from everybody else and then being put into me, because they're being all combined out there in Zoom land somewhere and being disseminated here.
Right. I would just change that. It doesn't care about the voices.
It's self-aware. It knows who she is,
Yeah,
and
no.
it likes her. It likes her a lot.
That's my point. Is that it doesn't have any. It doesn't know from voices. It knows it, like Frank said, inputs and
Microphone
outputs.
input.
Yeah.
So Lois is getting everybody's audio but her own.
Mhm.
Mike is getting everyone's audio but his own. I'm getting everyone's audio but my own. That's called a mix minus.
Yep.
And
That's
without it,
correct.
you'd go
Right.
nuts.
Perfect.
So,
Hey, Bobby, how you doing out there?
David, you notice that as I
I'm good.
speak,
I
the
have a
meters
question.
are reactive. Can you see
wait.
that?
Hold on. Everyone, be quiet. I want to see what he did.
Okay, can you hear me? I'm speaking. Yeah. So what I did is in audio hijack, I added the input of this headset that going through the main meters.
The input of your headset, not of your mic.
Mhm. Oh well, this is my mic at the moment.
Okay. Sorry. Gotcha. Okay.
And therefore I hear myself
Right.
in the ear.
And there's no feedback because you've only got it in once instead of in twice.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I'm
You
not going
could
to
do
play
it
with it
in
now.
loopback as well.
I'm not going to
That's
play
a
with it.
quick
now.
one in audio
I-
hijack.
It's funny. I actually had to help someone today with a loopback issue, and it's ironically it's about what we're talking about. So let me just pull up. I'll show you real quick. He was using loopback to get all of his system audio into Zoom. He uses Ecamm, he had set it all up, and I said to him, I don't think you need that. Ecamm has a virtual microphone built in that will mix all of this audio. It'll grab your system audio if you tell it to. So we turned that on. We got rid of loopback, and I still wasn't hearing anything. And we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And finally, I found deep hidden within Ecamm settings, right at the bottom here, system output mix mode. Use this setting only when the max audio output is being mixed back into the mic channel by your audio interface. So when he was using loopback, he had this checked because he was including Ecamm in the mix. And so this is the mix minus that's built into Ecamm. But you have to turn that off when you want to send all that audio into Zoom. So in any case, that's that.
Good night, everybody. See you.
Good night, Hasmukh. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Oh, my Lord.
Okay, next question.
Next question.
Do you realize we've done 2 questions?
That's the best. Those are the best.
We
kind of
all work for
questions.
Lois today.
I don't think she has a question. She just wanted us to move on.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're an hour and 20 minutes into the program and we've had 2 questions, you know?
Did
It's like,
anyone see that Google just changed the name of Bard? They just
To
changed it.
Gemini.
Gemini.
Mhm.
You can
Not
still
to be
go to
confused with the DJ company or DJ brand that's out there.
or not to be confused with the what's that fake money that people buy sometimes? You know, the not
Bitcoin?
Yeah.
When-
Like what's that all called? That whole thing?
Crypto.
Cryptocurrency.
Gemini is also a crypto thing. But yeah, they just changed it, and now you can also spend money if you want. They will. There's a. Let's see. How do you get to?
And David, could you clarify what you're talking about?
Sorry,
And why we're talking about it?
I don't know. I just brought it up. So this is Google's AI tool. It has been called Bard up until now. It was okay. I never used it over ChatGPT.
No
But
Bard in Canada. Is this available in Canada?
Oh, no Bard in Canada, maybe. I don't know. So now there are three. Look at this, though.
What
There's
does
three
this have
different
to do-
sizes.
What does this have to do with Zoom? Is this
Okay.
something?
All right. You know what, everyone? Be nice to me.
No,
I got here because I was looking through my Zoom settings and I said, oh, look, AI companion. And then I thought, oh, I saw an announcement about AI, and that took me over here.
Train of,
He went down the chain.
I
Yes,
went,
he
I
did.
just, I
I
was,
think we call that a rabbit hole.
all right, well, now I'm climbing out.
Here, I'll help David and I'll bring us back to Zoom. Does everybody know that you can now live stream your YouTube shorts? So you can actually now do vertical.
How is that Zoom? How is that
Well,
Zoom?
Again, you
Wait.
could send it to Zoom from Zoom into
You all
live
make fun of
YouTube.
me
6
for going
degrees of
to,
separation. Did
What?
I read somewhere, I think it was in Discord, either your the Zoom Test Kitchen Discord or the Office Hours Discord. I thought I read something about Zoom is no longer going to stream to Facebook. Did anybody else see that in
no,
Discord?
no.
What was that about
So
then?
yeah,
Help me
that's
understand.
Okay, so Facebook apparently has changed the ability to live stream into groups, into Facebook groups, which is huge. It's a real problem for a lot of people. So presumably that would apply to Zoom as well. You can't live stream from anywhere into Facebook.
Did
groups.
they say why? Do they want to do their own streaming and block all their competitors? Like, what is it? Why did they say why?
Let's
There are two
see.
theories on this. One of the theories is that they want to charge for it. And the other one is the issues with what's going into those groups.
So security and privacy.
Or liability?
But what I didn't understand from that that message that was sent out was, if I stream onto a page, can the owner of that page then share it in a group that he's in? That's one thing I didn't quite understand.
Share the post,
Share the live stream.
share the live.
Sounds like we need a Facebook test kitchen.
Oh God.
Yes?
Please, no.
I will not be joining that. I hate Facebook.
No, please no. I'm trying to find, I see videos on it, but I don't see,
Aren't we supposed to call them Meta?
oh yeah, I guess we are.
But that would also include Instagram at that point. So again,
Does anyone
I
see the
don't-
art? I don't actually, there are some videos that have come out on it, and I've heard some people freaking out, but I don't actually see, I don't actually,
Maybe it's a wild rumor and it's not true.
No, there was an official announcement about that.
there
It's
was?
something. Yeah, it's going to take place as of April the 2nd or the.
I can't find
the date.
anything
How
about it.
in the world do you find an official announcement on Facebook? I mean, everything changes every time you look at it.
They're
Streaming to Facebook is an extreme challenge. Whenever we do a stream, we stream to Facebook. I actually set it up 1 hour before, and stream into Facebook without starting the Facebook Live, just to see it coming in to make sure it's actually happening. It's extremely challenging. It's not that it's not stable, it just keeps changing. And so you don't understand what's changed.
Have you ever
Good-
used
good
something like
practice, Robert.
Restream.io or something to get it there instead? Does that work better?
I actually do it through Vimeo, so I can change the whatever parameters I want, start it, restart it. But it's challenging. It is really challenging because there's some things that are applicable to a page. There's something that's applicable to the to a user himself. There's something that only apply if you go through the Meta business account, and it usually takes me 3 or 4 times to just approach it and try it out until I find which way it's going through. And that may be an issue with me, but I find
No, I don't think it is.
I find it complicated. With YouTube, I just go into to my YouTube channel or the YouTube channel of the client, get onto live, you go into the studio, and you're there.
I see lots and lots of complaints on the Zoom community about streaming from Zoom to Facebook. And it's not something I know a lot about, but one thing I know on the Zoom community is Zoom gets blamed for a lot of other companies' failures. They want Zoom to rectify it instead of going to the company. Like anytime you do an integration, both companies can point at the other company and say, it's not our fault, go see them. But I never see anyone going anywhere else to say, why is this happening? They come to Zoom and yell at Zoom for every problem they have with an integration.
Yeah, and again, guys, just to let everybody know, basically what ends up happening on the back end is good old APIs, right? So all it takes, and vMix has been notorious for this all the time, of their integration breaking with Facebook or insert different platforms here. Basically, what ends up happening is that as of a certain date, they of course implement the latest API, in this case for Facebook, into vMix so that it will work properly and there'll be a proper handshake and you'll be able to log into Facebook through vMix, et cetera, et cetera. And I would assume, David, even in Ecamm, this would be a similar thing where you could actually go to Facebook directly. But I know for sure you could do this in vMix. So basically, that every time Meta does changes on the API and not tell vMix, it breaks. And you'll go, there are a ton of times you could actually go into the vMix forums and all of a sudden they say, yeah, did it break for you? Yeah, it broke for me. Did it break for you? Yeah, it broke for me. Then all of a sudden, sure enough, it's because the API ended up changing because the certain information that vMix was sending to Facebook is now different. So that's where a
So
lot of that
responsible
changed.
companies would give guidance in advance. I don't know if that's the situation in this situation, but if you're telling your partners, if you want to call them your partners, your industry partners, that changes are coming, and they don't react, then I put that on the other company. But if they're changing the APIs without warning anyone, then that's that company's fault.
All right, I found it. I don't understand it, but I found it. So let me show it to you here. So Facebook Groups API is deprecated in V19 and in 90 days will be removed from all versions. This deprecation includes all permissions published to groups, group access members info, and reviewable features, Groups API associated with the Facebook Groups API.
Can you post that link in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I'm curious about this as well. But I'm glad I was right. It wasn't surprising to me because vMix has had a lot of problems with Facebook doing this to them all the time.
Facebook changes all the time, and as I think Lois, as you said, and and I'm not a developer, but it's infuriating, I think, to many developers. If someone, I don't know if now that you all have, maybe you all could unpack this because I don't really understand it.
Yeah, just give me a few seconds, David. I'll go over it and I'll let you know.
Of course. They're doing, this is in the developer page for those of you who are watching. So there's Facebook Graph API version 19. We're highlighting changes below. General updates. Looks like oh, that's the marketing API. All right.
And Frank was saying that responsible companies would tell their partners or users or whatever about an upcoming change. And my question to Frank is, do you register with them when you use that? Or, I mean, I would have assumed that they wouldn't know who you were.
Developers for multiple corporations who have symbiotic relationships or make functionality available so that other companies can use it can and should probably publish things in advance, well in advance, so the other companies can start developing the code and changing the code. That does happen a lot, but sometimes other companies aren't as responsible. They change the APIs to suit their business needs, and that breaks all the relationships with all the other companies that are trying to leverage those APIs. So, who knows?
And Lois,
Could you
to answer your
define
question, when it comes,
An
sorry,
API,
yeah, so
go ahead, Mike.
yeah, sorry, no, I was just going to say, when it comes to vMix, I know vMix and Facebook have been talking for many years, because vMix has been one of the original companies that have been able to stream directly to Facebook, and they've allowed the handshaking of you being able to use your Facebook account to log in so that it gets the proper information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, so application interface is what API stands for. So application interface, and it's basically from Zoom system. Let's use that very vaguely. They will take an encoded feed of what we are watching right now, which is what we're sending to YouTube, right? So, and they have YouTube's APIs, they have Facebook's APIs, and I don't remember the third. I know there's a third. They have their APIs, and they also have what David is using today, which is the custom, where you have to put the actual RTMP information all in and for it to actually work. Now, when they have the integration between, when they say they have, you can click here and it's Facebook, they already have Facebook's supposedly latest API information in their system at their end, that if we said, David said for this meeting, oh yeah, send it to Facebook group X on Facebook, that it would then start the process of going through and having David log in, and making sure that he's authorized for the group, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the feed would eventually get into the group. Now, if those API calls that Zoom has been given up to this point have now just magically changed over the last couple of days, and they were not told ahead of time that the changes will be effective as of X, you have to change your code from this to that, then break.
Well, just to be clear, it says it's deprecated in version 19, and in 90 days it will be removed from all versions. So this came out like a week or two ago, it looks like.
Right. So
I don't think this is. I don't think they're doing it this second. I think it's coming up.
Right.
September,
so if it's already broken, that's bad, because that means Facebook.
No, I don't think it is already broken.
Okay, so
No,
it's so
I think
okay.
this
So
is
it's,
I think this is freaking everyone out because
it's going to be broken.
yeah, because it will be, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So looking at the actual Facebook groups API being depreciated, that in itself is huge, because that means that the Facebook groups itself API that anybody has had any access to outside of Facebook will no longer exist, period. So this also will include live streaming to that group. That's what I'm getting out of that. When I see Facebook groups API, that is the actual API engine for Facebook groups. They're getting rid of it entirely, 100%. So it's not that they're modifying the code, it's gone in 90 days. So yes, if there is integration that you do from external that is using that Facebook groups API, it's not going to be there in 90 days.
These are such complicated topics. I mean, now you're getting into antitrust and lawsuits and FEC violations. Who knows, right? Like this is way beyond Zoom Test Kitchen sort of territory, I think.
Yeah, no, it's the interesting piece is that for a meeting or a program like this one where some of us come into Zoom together, and then we also like to push it out. Now, we don't go to Facebook now, but there are lots of folks who do, and now it sounds at least like this is taking that away. Lois.
So if I'm hearing what everybody's saying, this is not something that is going to affect an individual who is in a Facebook group and is participating directly into the Facebook group. This is only going to be a concern of some other organization like Zoom or whatever, and that larger body interfacing with the Facebook group. Is that correct?
Yeah, it means that no one is going to be able to send a live stream directly into Facebook groups. And
Yes.
since all of us use a third-party service like Zoom or vMix or Ecamm to do that, then yes, it's the relationship that's being broken is between Facebook and those other organizations. Robert, did you want to jump in?
I just wanted to put this back into context because we sort of run off quite a lot. When it comes to streaming, we have two options. If you, David, have your Zoom account and you want to stream to your David Facebook account, then you will, through the so-called API, connect those two accounts and you'll be able to stream whenever you want to. Okay. And that's the context of the API. At the moment, you're streaming, there's a message on the top of the screen, custom live streaming service. So what you've done is you've said to YouTube, in this case, YouTube, give me a key, give me a URL, tell me where I can send my stream and you will publish it. And that's a totally different thing from what we're talking about over here. So just to keep those two things separate. But Lois, you're absolutely right, because this whole context is affecting groups. It's not affecting individuals. And if you want to understand the business perspective on this, think of the same situation happened when X locked off its APIs to the outside world that was anonymous. It's all to do with collecting information, scraping it, and using it to feed algorithms on large language models. And that's what they're trying to do over here from the API's point of view, because as streaming, we're only a part of this whole change that's taking place, but it affects a lot of different things.
Another example would be when Reddit changed how many calls you could make, and they wanted to charge. So a lot of companies that had built Reddit clients couldn't afford anymore to have that many calls because Reddit had changed the amount of pricing per call, which basically crippled the ability for other people to create clients. So there's lots of things companies can do to each other, and a lot of companies want a business advantage, and they don't want competitors leveraging their APIs and their intellectual property. But there's also laws in each country and state that govern how companies have to treat each other, and it's super complicated. And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't feel comfortable getting too deep into these kind of topics.
So does anybody have another question?
I'm going to pop in just so Luria Petrucci did a nice little 5-minute take on what this all means. So I just popped that in the Zoom if anyone's interested. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you just search YouTube for live streaming pros, it's one of the first videos on her channel. She has a nice little breakdown of it.
So David Paskin, what changes should we expect on Zoom in the coming weeks?
Well, we should ask Frank. He's the man with his finger on the pulse of.
All right, without getting myself in trouble.
Here we go.
They give us They give us guidance about what's coming. Sometimes they don't give you a lot of notice about guidance, so I've been looking for guidance. and there's been very little guidance. I did read on Reddit, somebody said they had talked to their account manager, and somewhere around 25th of February, there's supposed to be a new update to Zoom, but they don't always meet those target dates. Sometimes code slips, so they don't get it done in time, or they hit walls or whatever. But for most of the products, I look at a lot of the products. One of them is already telling us about stuff that's going to happen in March, and almost none of them have anything published for February. So I don't imagine whatever's going to happen in February is going to be that big. But usually what Zoom does is every quarter, near the end of their quarter, they do something big. So I'm expecting something big closer to spring. But
Zoom Docs, maybe. Zoom Docs.
I don't know. I can't say.
No, it's a little interesting to me that on their Zoom releases by date, I usually see the next one coming up, and there's nothing here that's coming up, which is I have no idea.
So
doesn't mean anything.
Take it with a grain of
Thank you,
salt. I read it on Reddit, and somebody had talked to their account executive. Sometimes those people give you hints and clues, and they published it publicly, so that's why I could talk about it, because it's not something I know confidential from any confidential source.
Yep. Not that anyone at Zoom is listening, but if I had a wish list, I'll tell you what's on my wish list. It's so basic. It's so simple. I want to be able to move my taskbar, the bar at the bottom. I want to be able to disconnect that from my window and move it to my second monitor. I
think that's a reasonable request. They've done a lot of things with pop-outs, like the chat could pop out,
exactly,
and participants could pop out. So I don't think that's a big ask. If it may not be high on their list of to-dos, though.
Sure, it's not.
They may be spending more time on new features or squashing bugs, and those little conveniences may not rank as high. I don't know.
It's just so that I want my view to. So right now, for example, because I'm streaming out, I have to have my main view as full screen, as speaker view, not gallery view, because that's what we want going out. But that's why I keep looking over here, because I've got gallery view over there. I really want gallery view. So that's what I'd really like. If I could just move that bar and make my secondary monitor the one that streams out, then.
The big complaint I see quite often in the community is people don't like what they've done with the control bar at the bottom, and everything got pushed into more when all the AI stuff got pushed out. They want two things. They want to be able to get rid of some of the stuff, and they want to be able to put it in the order they want. And I don't know if Zoom's willing to do that or not.
Well, you remember last week or 2 weeks ago, there was an update that said you could rearrange the things in your bar, and I got all excited thinking that that's what it was, what you just described, but it was on the website, I think.
It's the application launcher for Zoom.
Sorry, yeah, the client.
Where it says, do you want to go meetings, chats, calendar, mail? You could rearrange those.
I got all excited that we could do that down here. I think for what it's worth, I think those complaints are true. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of stuff smushed into the bottom there. You've got all the stuff we're all used to with an AI companion options.
As a Zoom admin for a big organization, I would like to be able to set it all the same for my organization and not let people have that much freedom, because doing support, the third button for you is going to be completely different. I think that makes it a lot harder to teach people how to use Zoom. And to help each other in meetings. If Lois is saying, Frank, just press the fourth button, and my fourth button isn't her fourth button, how's she going to help me? Like, I see advantages and disadvantages to it.
I've been running a Thursday night program where I want people using the Q&A. And so what I've said to them is, you'll see Q&A on the bottom, and if you don't see it there, click on the more button and you'll find it over there. And yeah, you're right. I would much rather say to them, it's the fifth button from the left, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Which won't work if you're on an iPad rather than on a computer, because you've got it differently.
What do you mean?
The width of your device determines a lot about what will
Right.
be shown and what will not be shown.
But also
Of course,
each
different meetings will have different things shown.
each Zoom client has different limitations as well. So some of the things won't show up on an iPad because the iPad client can't do those things.
You know what those are, Frank? Do you know what certain things are not?
I don't know all of them. There's a chart on the Zoom website. It's called Zoom Client Feature Comparison if you want the keywords, and it'll show you what Mac can do, what Windows can do, what Linux can do, what Chrome can do, and what mobile iOS and Android can do. And there's quite a few things you can't do once you're off of a desktop computer. You start to lose functionality pretty quickly. Annotations and like Android, you can't record locally on Chrome, for example, Chromebooks and stuff. You only can trigger a cloud recording.
Here we go. Look at this. This is a nice. Sorry, I'm bringing it up for everyone. Give me a second. Here we go. So this is Windows, Linux, Android web client, Zoom web app. Sorry,
Wait,
Android
before you go any further, if anyone from Zoom is listening, the feature and the operating system, I wish that bar floated so that when you scrolled, it stayed on top because now I don't
see.
It's such bad web design.
You all know what he's talking
that
about.
applies to a lot of their documents. Look at even their pricing behaves in the same way.
Yeah.
When I make an Excel sheet, I always freeze the top row so that you can scroll and you know what the category headings are.
Exactly.
And then if you tried to look at that on your phone. Wow.
Oh, yes, you're right. That's a whole different thing. So which one is mobile? All right, so the third from the left. I don't know if that's the same on every.
Basically, the more you get to the right, the less features you're going to have, because it's computers, mobile device, Linux, mobiles devices, and then the sketchier.
So you can't deal with polls at all. Standard poll. Look at that. This is interesting. You can't create, edit, and launch standard polls on mobile, but you can advanced polls. That's interesting. Start and manage breakout rooms. You can't do that. View pre-assigned participants in breakout rooms. You can't do that.
I think it has to do with the size of the brain.
I think some of it just doesn't make sense. Like trying to record a 4-hour meeting locally on your iOS device,
right?
You probably don't have the storage, so they say, why would we allow that? Just record it to the cloud.
Yeah.
Plus, your battery's probably going to die if you're trying to be on an iOS device and you're having a 1080p conversation, your camera's going, your microphone's going, and then you're trying to write files locally to the little memory thing in your iPhone. So they say no, it's not going to be a good user experience, so we don't allow it.
Hello, John Idelson. So if we're having wish lists, I wish that there was some place that I could go and find nice community public meetings that are Zoom meetings that I could go and attend. And, it's like, wouldn't that be a nice thing to do?
What about the Zoom test kitchen,
David?
The Zoom test kitchen. Or couldn't you also find that in on Zoom?
Used to be a bunch of stuff listed there, not much anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
Every challenge is an opportunity, Lois. Start a business.
Hey, I'm done with business.
I wonder, why do you think they're keeping OnZoom around? Welcome to OnZoom. Oh, for one thing, OnZoom is only US. I didn't realize that.
There's ways to get into it, but yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think, if they're not like pushing this, or maybe they are and I just haven't heard it, I just haven't seen them do anything. I wonder why they're keeping it around.
Maybe it's profitable. I don't know. I think Ray is the only person here. If you go to the bottom of Zoom support site, there's somewhere in there where they give the financial statements. By law, they have to. And if you're willing to sit down and read all that junk, maybe you'll be able to discern if it's making them a lot of money or not.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to do that here, but I will go and check to see how expensive it is to just list a public meeting.
Nothing. It's free.
That's what I thought.
They
And-
take a cut if you charge.
Right.
I-
So if I wanted to get a group together to talk about the best way to pet kittens, I could do that. But nobody knew about it.
We already have Facebook for that.
No.
The other thing I would say is, and I don't know, I'm just speculating, a lot of times companies keep products alive even when they're not turning a profit because they see potential or they're learning something. Like Uber doesn't turn a profit. It's lost money year after year, right? But they see potential, future
Really?
potential.
They haven't
I think Uber's heavily subsidized by
really.
Saudi families and stuff. But I mean, it's big investors see a potential. Maybe they're waiting for the day where self-driving cars can do the deliveries and they don't have to share the profits with or even pay the drivers. But sometimes companies keep things going. I don't know if on Zoom's profitable, but maybe they're learning things from it. Maybe it's filling a need in the company. I don't know. Maybe they're getting research data from it.
Or maybe they promised to have it. I mean, when it came out, and they made promises to people, and you can't just kill someone's class because
Yeah, but usually big companies have lawyers that give them lots of loopholes to shut services down, and you agree to them when you sign up. So I'm sure they have those kind of loopholes if they really need it out. There's got to be another reason. Like either it's working well and it's meeting the goals that they've established for it, or maybe they're learning things from it.
or maybe it's just not worth hassling about and they're just ignoring it.
I don't think for-profit companies think that way. There's usually a reason they're doing something.
Now I'm curious about the payouts and what you actually get on Zoom.
Well, folks, it's been wonderful talking to you, but we've been almost 2 hours. So is there another question coming? And if not, I'm going to head on out. Hey, Bobby.
I'm going to find out how much it costs.
I do have one question for you, for the group. I do a video playback before a podcast. I have a QuickTime video that I share, and my users say they can't hear the music. So it's kind of a two-part question. In the video rolling, I don't understand why they don't hear the music over the person's dialogue. And can I actually play like something through OBS audio? Like I play back a QuickTime file in OBS through audio or Spotify.
Sounds like you're not using original audio.
Are you sharing screen to play?
Yeah, for the rolling, I'm sharing screen, and then I'm rolling a QuickTime video, and the music is low. But I'm having problems always putting music through Zoom, like in a waiting room or anything like that. Is there anything I need to?
It's a complicated topic.
It is, right? Yeah.
And one thing I'll say about it is most people don't realize this, but Zoom has its own noise suppression.
Mm-hmm.
But usually the device, so whether it's Windows has noise suppression, Mac has noise suppression, iOS has noise suppression. When you have double noise suppression, it can interfere with your ability to get the sound out. And Zoom is definitely geared towards audio more than music, unless you use the appropriate settings in Zoom. But even if you use the appropriate settings in Zoom, your operating system, your audio card, or the drivers or the software may have their own audio echo cancellation or noise suppression that's also knocking it out, and you have to have all of those things working in tandem.
Okay, so I got some switches to turn off probably on Zoom.
Are you on a Mac or Windows?
Mac.
So Mac has its own noise suppression. There's wide and narrow. Read about that.
Okay.
And if you want to go really old school, if you can play your music on some device that puts it in the air and it just goes in through your microphone, that's another way around things.
I was actually trying to play like Spotify back through that.
So you have, if you're sharing it through Zoom, you have to make sure that you're sharing computer sound.
Mm-hmm.
You probably want to use original audio, but you also want to make sure your operating system's not defeating all of your efforts.
Okay. That's something to research. Thank you.
And
Appreciate
Lois, unfortunately, playing music through the microphones, they've really cut back on that. I think Dave's had experience, David, where people could clap and they don't hear to clap. You've played songs and it's not singing.
Well, you
We
have to
actually
turn
did
your
a
noise
demonstration
suppression.
where somebody was holding up music next to their microphone while they were talking, and Zoom was able to get rid of it, which they wanted it to do. We want the opposite. You want to be able to hear it.
There's
Isn't that
there
a
are,
noise suppression settings situation?
there are some settings here. I see original sound for music, which I'll use, and then there's high fidelity music, echo cancellation, and stereo audio, with echo cancellation being selected. Do I want any of those selected?
Yeah. So if the basic answer, I mean, Frank is right that there are lots of points of that could be a problem here, but fundamentally, if they're not hearing your audio, it's because you are not using original audio.
Okay.
You need to turn that on the back end, and then in the meeting, you need to enable it by clicking in the top left.
And you have to click when you click share, and you have to
And
share
if you're
computer audio as well.
And if you're sharing, then there's in the bottom left there's a button that says share audio, or the other button is
Oh, high fidelity. Look at that. They have a mono.
right. So there's high fidelity. I would turn on high fidelity. I would turn on echo cancellation, and then there's stereo audio, which is.
And do you have a pro account?
I have, yeah, with that one I do.
So a good way to test this before your podcast is to make get a slice of paper, try the different settings, and record to the cloud, and then you can listen to it the way your audience would hear it, and you can figure out if you make like a matrix which settings allowed you to hear.
Perfect. All right, so I got some homework.
And I do see a drum set in the background there.
This is the baby.
That's a baby. Okay.
I'm a bass player.
Do you have earphones on, or do you have an open speaker when you're in your meetings?
It doesn't matter. I try to not wear headphones just because it's just.
You want to wear headphones.
I know, but I'm like TDing the meetings, so I really don't need to like interact with the guests.
When we were talking about mix minus earlier, when a microphone hears the speakers of the same sound, Zoom is going to do a mix minus. It's going to try and get rid of. So if you have what David has, like a little in-ear monitor or big cans like I have on, that really makes it easier for the computer and for Zoom to process the audio.
So yeah, maybe I'll do that. But I'm never interacting. I just basically roll the video, and then the host takes the rest of the show, and I'm pretty much muted for the whole time.
But you want to hear what's happening in the show for cues and stuff, right?
It's kind of a freestyle, the way that the host knows how to call everybody. We've been doing it for a couple of years, so I'm just cutting the show through spotlighting.
But you're listening, right?
I'm listening, yes. So
yeah.
I guess.
And if something's going to go through your microphone, you want to have headphones on if possible.
So
that is true.
The music that's coming into the Zoom meeting coming from the other performers?
No, it's a video roll-in that I do in the beginning. The podcast is for a hospital, so I always put that commercial, and there's some music and narration over this, explaining about what the hospital does, and there's just some low music, and the music just drops out. That's basically it. So I was trying to figure out why.
Yeah, that's definitely Zoom defeating it on purpose.
Yeah,
That's what that sounds like.
Or the operating system.
Or the operating. Yeah. Okay.
All right, folks. Hasbek came back. Hasbek, why are you not asleep? Why are you back? It's like 2 a.m, for goodness sakes.
He's sleeping on his desk, can't you tell?
I guess so. Yeah.
Now I saw his face for a fraction there. And John just joined us.
Yes, he did.
Okay,
hello,
guys.
friends.
I will see you later. Bye-bye.
So, anything else that that needs to be jumped on this week? If not, I think we could probably call it.
John, anything exciting? Last call.
We're all waiting for Super Bowl and Taylor Swift. What more? Oh, wait, that's just in the U.S. I keep forgetting.
And Canada.
We know who Taylor Swift is. My daughter's a huge Taylor Swift fan.
The heck does Tay-Tay have to do with? I mean, I know she'll be there, but
No, this is the perfect storm of the largest attendant, people viewing, all the football fanatics and all the Taylor fanatics, which in a Venn diagram doesn't really, it's two big separate circles. So
She's playing some concert in Japan or somewhere, rushing to the airport and flying back just to get there, like in multiple time zones.
yeah, they were that the time zone is what's allowing her to do it apparently because she's like going back in time. I don't know.
Back in time.
Right, back in time.
She'll know
All
the
right.
future.
there would do.
Well, go whatever team you're rooting for.
Go sports ball.
I don't even know who's playing. Is this football we're talking about or basketball? What sport?
David,
I don't
David,
even know.
David. The 49ers. I'm a Californian.
All right.
Pickleball. It's
What can I say?
pickleball weekend.
It's pickleball.
Pickleball weekend.
All right, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank
See you later.
Take care.
Go Senators.
Go.